Mets fans, welcome to another very abbreviated version of the Just Mets podcast. My name is Andrew Claudio. That is Rich MacLeod. We just recorded an 83-minute Patreon pod, so please check that out, where we went through our Hall of Fame ballots. Everybody on the ballots. Spoiler alert, the Phillies can go to hell. I will say that we also recorded a quick thing at the beginning that was just going to be a 10-15 minute where things stand on Kyle Tucker. I was much more confident then because the Mets apparently have offered a 4-year, $200 million contract. We know that the average annual value is going to be at least $50 million that they've offered. Yeah, that was before the most recent report. If I could just go through the timeline, I did my Mets therapy session yesterday. It looked like the Mets were going to offer $3,150, and then Kyle Tucker was going to consider. Then the Blue Jays also gave a long-term offer. Jim Duquette today reported that the Mets have upped to a 4th year. It was also reported, I forget who, but somebody said that there's no deferrals in the Mets contract, so it's looking like a 4-year, $200 million contract. Jeff Passan tonight has said the Jays are the only team that have showed the willingness to go to 10 years with their offer to Kyle Tucker. So, Rich, you haven't got a chance to respond to any of this. We want to keep this as short as possible.
Yeah.
So I want to give you the floor. What the last 48 hours have been for you in seeing how this has evolved into the Mets being legitimately contenders for Kyle Tucker or pursuers of Kyle Tucker, your reaction to the numbers being thrown around, and then we'll wrap up with the confidence meter. What's your confidence level on the Mets getting Kyle Tucker?
Yeah. So let's talk about before this Passan thing, because the Passan thing is the reason we are now re-record. There is an older version of this from about an hour ago that you people will never see.
Lost to the analog.
Let's go before that. So there's been a lot of buzz these last couple days. I'd say these last 2 days with the Mets and Kyle Tucker have been very, very hot, but this all really started toward the end of last week. You had the trickles of reports that the Mets were interested. People started hearing that the Mets had met with Kyle Tucker. And then I think by Sunday that had been officially reported by Jim Duquette, and then echoed by a lot of people who said that they had heard that beforehand. It got to the point where, again, before this Passan report tonight, like almost midnight, Wednesday into Thursday, that there was a part of me that was a little suspicious of, like, the Mets have not been leaking almost anything this offseason. When they've made a move, it generally kind of comes out of nowhere. The Brandon Nimmo trade, I had heard almost nothing about that, and then boom, it happened. Jorge Polanco, Devin Williams, Luke Weaver. Some of these guys weren't even like mentioned very much to be attached with the Mets, and boom, like they signed out of nowhere. So the fact that there's been so much reporting about the Mets and like the offers that they're making, like down to the number of dollars per season, was making me a little bit suspicious of, okay, are the Mets being used here? Is the agent leaking the numbers to these reporters to put pressure on whatever team he actually would like to go to? That being said, I was more confident than not that the Mets would get him. I think our original recording, I said 60%, you said 70%. It seems like the Mets are making a true full court press here, as Jim Duquette said, like being extremely aggressive and opportunistic here, which I do very much appreciate. You got to land the guy, of course. Like, I'm not going to applaud an effort, but it's showing me something that they're doing this, and maybe they learned from the Diaz misstep, and they're like, no, we got, like, if we really want somebody in this caliber of player, we got to go all out for it. So I can appreciate that. And look, if they added him, it changes the complexion of the entire offseason. The roster looks completely different. There's a much clearer avenue to this team competing in like a real way in 2026 and not just hoping things go right. But Then you get the passing report from tonight that, says that the Blue Jays are the only team willing to go to 10 years for him. Obviously, the Mets have offered 4 as far as we're aware. Mike Puma had tweeted tonight that the Mets probably aren't going to hear until Thursday at the earliest what Kyle Tucker's decision was. He reported earlier in the day, too, that they didn't know if he was which way he was even leaning. So that, I think, takes a hit on the confidence for me. I think for both of us. Again, we're re-recording this because of this news, so it is of significance. However, I'm going to do the Windhorse thing again.
Okay.
If the Blue Jays are offering him 10 years, and the only team coming close to that's the Mets, who are offering 4 for $200. Why hasn't he taken it? Does he just not? So there's 2. I hit the microphone. Got excited. That excited.
Yeah.
There are 2 possibilities here, and I think probably only 2. One of which is Kyle Tucker does not want to live in Canada. So he's trying to get his, he's negotiating, but he doesn't want to go there. The next best offer, as far as we're aware, is the Dodgers could be, God knows, they're always lurking. So potentially they're trying to keep up with the Mets. Who knows? Maybe there's a secret team here that none of us ever heard of. The classic mystery team maybe is out there. But yeah, maybe he just doesn't want to go to the Blue Jays, and he's really just okay, do I really have to settle for a 4-year deal? What's that going to look like? And that's the situation where the Mets probably get him. Situation number 2 is the Mets offer is being leveraged to get every last extra year and dollar out of the Toronto Blue Jays. And who knows what the Blue Jays are offering him, but if it's 10 years, I would assume that's exceeding $300 million in some capacity. Is Tucker telling him, hey, they're offering me $200 for 4 years. So I need, if you're offering me 10 years, I need 10 years of $400 million.
Right.
So to me, that's just 2 sides of this coin. And that's the other side is it's either he really doesn't want to go to Toronto and he's trying to get as much as he can out of the Mets because it's short term, or it's the opposite. And he's trying to use the Mets offer and leak that publicly, which again was something I was a little concerned about even before this, to just get the most he possibly can out of the Blue Jays.
So I'm at a 50-50 coin toss. And if you want to say it's it's more like a 40-40-20 or a 45-45-10, whatever number you want to give the Dodgers. I've honestly never really bought into the whole, he'll go to the Dodgers and just win a ring on a 2-year deal. He won a championship. He won with the Astros. So the notion he would be Edwin Diaz and the goal would be to win a championship. This is his first big contract that he's going to get. And I think it's what he prefers. Does he want a 10-year deal where the total money is more guaranteed? Or does he want to be one of the highest paid players in the sport through his prime? And then he re-enters free agency at 33 with less to recoup on this next contract. And we just saw Kyle Schwarber at 33 get $150 million. We saw Pete Alonso at 31 get $155 million. So Alex Bregman at 32 get $175 million. It is plausible that he's just adding on those types of numbers to a $200 million base that he's already gotten. It's really what he wants. And I don't think anybody really knows what he wants. I agree with you. It's one or the other, that he's trying to get money out of the other, based off of if he wants to go to the Mets, and I'll leak the Blue Jays offer, I'll use them for leverage, or vice versa. The John Boy show, Baseball Today, which is hosted by Chris Rose and Trevor Plouffe. A clip has been going around in the last 24 hours from them that talked about his relationship to Anthony Rendon. Not that he knows Anthony Rendon, but that there's a hint of Rendonitis. that he's just not a guy that's here for the long haul. Trevor Plouffe supposes that he's heard that Kyle Tucker's not a guy that's like in love with baseball, doesn't see a long future in baseball, might be fine at 35, just kind of being okay with being done, and might just be could look at a 4-year deal of $200 million as enough. And look, there's always going to be the does he want to play in New York conversation. There's also going to be the does he want to play for the Mets conversation. But at the end of the day, I think it really is like they have an equally good chance to get him as the Blue Jays do. It just depends what he and his wife and his family want. Do they want something that's going to keep them somewhere for 10 years or something that's going to keep them somewhere for 4? That's where I'm at, man. I think it's a coin toss. Famous last words. I don't think it's going to be the Dodgers, but I think it's a coin toss between the Mets and the Blue Jays. To your point, they better like go get him. David Stearns is what my emphasis was last night. Go get him. Hearing Steve Cohen's involved does make me a little more confident. I just don't know if this is a pure bidding war. I think this is more like we're going to make you a solid ass offer. If you turn it down, you didn't want to play here. You could argue it's the best offer. You could also argue it's like not enough to get him to play in New York. And if you were to bid again, you'd just be bidding against yourself because he wants 10 years, which they don't want to give.
It's one of the weirder examples of a bidding war you may ever see because they are such different types of offers. Again, we're just going off the report, but like 4 years versus 10, crazy high $50 million a year. Like Mets are paying Soto $51 million a year. So like that would put Tucker like right in the top tier of money earners in Major League Baseball. It's weighing that versus 10. Like we said in the original recording, and we've been saying the last couple of days, how do you turn down 4 years, $200 million? But to be fair, it's also really hard to turn down a 10-year deal.
Yeah.
It's really going to depend on preference. Like, do you want the long or the short? Do you want more money a year and maybe less certainty that you'll get a second contract that makes up what you're giving up? Where do you want to live? All these things. How much do you love
just
baseball?
Like it out, man. Yeah, we just mapped it out. Yeah.
Is he going to be? You mentioned Anthony Rendon. I make a Mets relevant compare Kevin McReynolds. A lot of people said the Mets got him in what was that, the late 80s, and he didn't really love baseball. And Met fans really didn't like him, even though he was like not the worst player. Is he that kind of guy, or is that overblown? A lot of factors here, a lot of things that we don't know, but I mean, we're going to find out in the next maybe less than 24 hours at this point.
What's your estimation? We find out Thursday, we find out Friday.
I think this might come to a head Thursday.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely before the weekend. Like this, we're getting close to the end of this road.
Saturday's his birthday. I think he's done with the negotiations come Saturday. He wants to celebrate somewhere. So we will save any further reactions for the emergency live stream. The only thing I've said is that I do applaud the try. I think you got to go get him, but I think they are at the point where they didn't lose a bidding war. It's just a like, what does he want war, because I think they've made a good enough offer to get Kyle Tucker. He just may want to go play somewhere for 10 years. I don't hate their process here, which is the first time I could really say that this offseason. So we'll see what happens. Rich, any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode? I'm not going to make you re-record.
Look, I hope they get the guy. It would make me feel so much better about what has happened this offseason, and again, like giving me excitement for 2026. And I will make a very public and direct apology to David Stearns and Steve Cohen if they somehow pull this off. I really hope that they do.
Yeah, I think we all might be doing some of that if they pull this off. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this abbreviated edition of the Just Mets podcast. Please check out our Patreon episode. We'll be posting our Hall of Fame picks, our Hall of Fame ballad, and we went through every name, as I mentioned. And yeah, be on the lookout for a notification from Jeff Passan, and then maybe a notification from us on our YouTube channel that we've gone live to react to hopefully some good news here in Mets land. Until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Hopefully Kyle Tucker is on his way in here, but in the words of the immortal Gary Cohen, we are out of here.